The discovery the wind howled across the ruined alien outpost, carrying with it the sharp smell of metal and dust. The place had been abandoned for many years, or at least that was what the human explorer believed. His name was Daniel, a lone traveler moving from one forgotten corner of the galaxy to another. He had seen broken ships, destroyed stations, and empty cities before, but this place felt different. It felt alive with silence, as if something was hiding in the shadows. Daniel stepped carefully over cracked tiles and twisted beams, his flashlight cut through the darkness, lighting walls covered in strange alien writing. He could hear the faint dripping of water echoing through the endless corridors. Every sound made him more alert. He was used to danger. But tonight the silence was heavy, too heavy. As he moved deeper inside, Daniel stopped suddenly. There was a sound, soft and trembling. It was not the sound of machines or wind. It was something else, something alive. His heart raced as he followed it. The sound grew clearer, a faint cry, weak and broken. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He raised his flashlight toward a half-collapsed door. Behind it, he saw movement, slow, shaking movement, forcing the door open. Daniel entered a small dark chamber. What he saw froze him where he stood, in the corner of the room, chained to the wall, was a girl, not human, but not entirely alien either. Her skin was pale with a faint glow under the light. Her hair, tangled and dusty, fell across her face. She looked thin, weak and terrified. Shackles cut into her wrists, and her glowing eyes widened when she saw him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was her shallow breathing. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Daniel lowered his weapon, showing her he meant no harm. He raised his hands slowly. "I am not here to hurt you," he said softly. His voice echoed in the empty room. The girl flinched but did not turn away. She had been treated like an object for too long. Kindness was a stranger to her. Daniel knelt down, carefully examining the chains. They were made of a strange alloy, glowing faintly with alien symbols. He could tell she had been here for a long time. Her body showed signs of hunger and exhaustion. He felt anger burn inside him. Whoever did this was cruel beyond measure. "Who are you?" he asked gently. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Finally, she whispered in a voice weak and broken, "Slave." The word stabbed his heart. She was not giving a name. She was giving what the aliens had forced her to believe she was. A slave, nothing more. Daniel shook his head. His jaw tightened. "No, you are not a slave," he whispered firmly. "Not anymore." Her glowing eyes flickered with confusion. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to her with kindness. She did not know whether to trust him. Every time someone approached before, it was with pain, punishment, or commands. But this man was different. His eyes carried no cruelty, only determination. Daniel pulled a small cutting tool from his belt. Sparks flew as he worked on the chains. The girl watched him with wide eyes. Her breath quickened. Part of her wanted to believe him, but another part feared the punishment that would come if she were caught free. After what felt like forever, the chains broke with a crack. Her body sagged forward, free for the first time. In years, she nearly collapsed, but Daniel caught her in his arms. She was light, too light. Her body weak from long suffering. "Easy," he said, holding her steady. "You are safe now, safe." The word echoed in her mind. Safe was a dream she had given up long ago. Yet this stranger spoke it as if it was real, for the first time. A small tear rolled down her cheek. Daniel gave her water from his pack. She drank slowly, her hands shaking. He offered food next, and she ate in silence, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. She was studying him, trying to understand why. He helped her. Humans were not known to her, but she could feel something honest in him. Finally, she spoke again. "Why? Why help me?" Her voice was broken, weak as though speaking itself was painful. Daniel looked at her. His expression was calm but strong, because no one deserves to live in chains. He replied, his voice was steady. "Not human, not alien, no one. Her." Lips parted, and for the first time, she felt something she had not felt in many years: hope. It was faint, fragile, but it was there. Daniel looked around the chamber. He knew they could not stay. Whoever enslaved her might still be close. The broken outpost could be crawling with enemies. This was only the beginning of their fight, but for now he had found her. He had pulled her from the shadows where she had been forgotten. She was no longer a slave chained in silence. She was someone worth saving, and he would not leave her behind. The first bond. The girl sat quietly, her body still trembling even though the chains were gone. Daniel watched her carefully, giving her space. He knew that freedom did not erase years of pain in a single moment. Freedom was a beginning, not the end. She kept her eyes lowered, afraid to meet his gaze. Her thin fingers clutched the small piece of bread he had given her. Every bite was slow, hesitant, as if she feared it might vanish the next second. Daniel did not rush her. He sat on the dusty floor nearby, pretending to check his equipment, letting her feel she had control. Her glowing eyes finally lifted toward him, studying the strange creature before her. She had never seen a human before. His face was sharp, his hair messy, his uniform scratched and worn, yet he carried himself with quiet strength. Not the cruel authority she had learned to fear. "You are different," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost broken. Daniel gave a faint smile. "Different can be good," he answered calmly. Her head tilted slightly, confusion flickering across her tired face. She had learned that different often meant dangerous. Every alien who had ever approached her brought more pain, more orders, more chains. Why should this man be any different? She tried to stand, but her legs wobbled. Daniel moved forward quickly, but she held up her hand. A warning not to touch her. Fear flashed in her eyes. "Do not," she stammered. Her voice shook. "If you touch me, they punish." Daniel froze, realizing the depth of her scars. Not only on her body, but in her mind. He stepped back slowly, lowering his hands, his voice steady. "No one will punish you anymore. Not while I am here." She stared at him, trying to find a lie in his eyes. Instead, she found something she could not understand: honesty. It scared her more than cruelty, because hope was dangerous. Hope could be broken. "What is your name?" Daniel asked gently. She blinked. Her lips trembled. She shook her head. "No name, only slave." Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice firm. "You are not a slave. You are someone. You must have a name." Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She had not allowed herself in years. Her voice broke. They took it. I do not remember." Silence filled the chamber. Daniel felt anger rise inside him again, but he kept his voice soft. "Then we will find a name together. A new one. One that is yours, not theirs." For the first time, her lips curved slightly, not a full smile, but the beginning of one. It was fragile, trembling, but it was there. The moment was broken by a distant sound. A low rumble echoed through the corridors. The girl's body stiffened instantly. Fear flashed in her eyes. She scrambled back toward the corner, curling up like she had been trained to do. Daniel quickly moved closer but kept his distance, his hand on his weapon. "It's just the walls settling," he said, though he wasn't sure himself. The ruins were unstable. But he could see what the sound had done to her. Years of conditioning had taught her that every noise meant danger. Daniel lowered his weapon and sat down again. He took off one of his gloves and tossed it gently toward her. It landed softly on the floor near her feet. She stared at it, confused. "It's just a glove," Daniel said. "See, nothing to fear." Slowly, hesitantly, she reached forward and touched it. Her glowing fingers brushed against the fabric. She looked up at him, puzzled. "Why give this?" "Because it is mine," Daniel answered, "and now it is yours. To remind you that not everything given to you comes with chains." Her chest rose and fell, her breathing uneven. She pressed the glove to her chest as if testing the idea. For the first time, she did not look like a slave. She looked like someone trying to remember what it felt like to belong. Daniel leaned back against the wall, speaking calmly. I cannot stay here long. The ones who did this to you. They will return. If we want to survive, we must leave together. The girl shook her head quickly. No, if I go, they find me. They always find me. Her voice cracked. And they kill anyone who helps. Daniel's eyes hardened, his voice strong. Then let them come. I will not leave you behind. Her glowing eyes widened. She had heard promises before, empty words meant to trick her. But this man spoke as if his soul was carved into each word. She did not understand why, but a part of her wanted to believe. She held the glove tighter, her lips parted, and she whispered something. It was faint, but Daniel heard it. A word, a name, perhaps. A piece of her true self breaking through. Leora, she said, trembling. Long ago. They called me Leora, Daniel repeated it softly. Leora, he nodded. That is your name. It is yours again. Her tears fell freely now, not of pain, but of release. For the first time, she felt like more than chains, more than fear. In the eyes of this stranger, she saw herself not as a slave, but as Leora, and so, in the ruins of a forgotten outpost, a bond was born, fragile yet powerful. It was the first step in a journey neither could have imagined. The escape plan. The ruins were quiet again, but Daniel knew silence was never safe. Silence meant only one thing: the enemy was listening, waiting, somewhere in the darkness. The slavers could return at any time. Leora sat close to him, clutching the glove he had given her. Her glowing eyes flickered in the dim light. Torn between fear and something new, something fragile, trust. She looked smaller without her chains, but also stronger in a strange way, as if freedom had already planted a seed inside her. Daniel studied the walls, his flashlight tracing over alien markings. He had mapped enough ruins to know that every outpost held hidden passages. He needed a way out, a way they could move unseen. The main doors were suicide. The slavers would have them covered. But the old tunnels, the forgotten vents, those could be their chance. Leora, he said softly, his voice steady. You know this place better than me. Did they ever move you through hidden paths? Her body stiffened, her head lowered. She did not like remembering, yet she nodded. Yes. They had doors in the floors, walls that opened. Sometimes they carried us through tunnels. Always dark, always cold. She shivered. I hated them. Daniel leaned forward. Do you remember where they are? Her glowing eyes looked uncertain. She bit her lip, fear rising. If I show you. They punish. Daniel's jaw tightened. He spoke firmly. No one will punish you again. Not while I breathe. Show me, Leora, please. For a moment she hesitated. Then, slowly she stood, her legs still weak but guided by memory. She led him down a narrow corridor, her bare feet making no sound. The walls felt alive with echoes, every step reminding her of the chains she once carried. Finally, she stopped before a broken slab of metal. Her trembling hand pressed against a symbol carved into the wall. With a faint hiss, the panel slid open, revealing a dark tunnel that disappeared into the earth. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Perfect, he muttered. But Leora looked terrified. Her hands shook as she whispered, if we enter, we may never leave. The tunnels. They take you where the masters choose, not where you wish. Daniel placed his hand gently against the wall. Then we make them our path, he said. Not theirs. She stared at him, confused. His certainty was like fire. He spoke of freedom as if it were as real as chains, but she had lived too long in cages to believe so easily. Still, she followed him. The tunnel was narrow, the air cold and heavy. The floor sloped downward, and every sound echoed endlessly. Daniel moved carefully, checking every corner. He had the calm patience of a hunter, never rushing, always alert. At one point, Leora stumbled. Daniel turned quickly, offering his arm. She flinched, fear flashing in her eyes. But then slowly, she allowed herself to lean on him. For a brief moment, the walls of fear cracked, and trust slipped through. They walked for what felt like hours. The tunnels twisted and turned. Some led to dead ends, some to collapsed chambers. Daniel cursed under his breath, but never gave up. He knew somewhere ahead was a way out. Finally, they reached a chamber lit faintly by alien crystals. In the center was something Daniel had hoped for, but barely believed an old landing bay. Inside, half buried in rubble, was a small ship, its hull scarred but still intact. Daniel's heart quickened. He walked forward, touching the ship's surface. "If this works, we can leave this cursed place," he whispered. Liara stared at it, her glowing eyes wide, but instead of hope, fear filled her face. "No, if we escape, they will find us. They always find us." She shook her head, trembling. "Better to stay here hidden." Daniel turned to her, his voice firm. "Do you want to spend the rest of your life hiding?" "In fear. You are free now, Liara. You deserve the stars." "Not these walls." Her lips parted, but no words came. For years she had been taught that freedom was impossible. Her mind chained even when her body was not. She hugged herself, torn between fear and the possibility of a life she had never dared to imagine. Daniel placed a hand on his chest. "I cannot promise it will be easy, but I promise you this: I will not leave you. Not now, not ever." Her glowing eyes softened. She wanted to believe, the fire in his voice, the strength in his words. It was something she had never known. And slowly, that fragile seed of hope grew a little stronger. Daniel walked around the ship, checking its condition. It would need power, repairs, and fuel. But it was a chance worth taking. He looked back at her. "This is our escape plan," he said. "We prepare the ship, we gather what we can, and when the time comes, we fly." Liara swallowed hard. The idea of leaving both terrified and thrilled her. She nodded slowly, whispering, "Together." Daniel gave a small smile. Together, but deep in the tunnels, echoes stirred, heavy footsteps, distant voices. The slavers were moving, searching. Their time was running out. The chase. The echo of footsteps grew louder in the tunnels. Heavy and sharp, Daniel's head snapped toward the sound. His instincts told him the slavers were close, too close. He gripped his weapon tightly. His eyes narrowing, Liara froze, her glowing eyes wide with terror. She pressed her back against the wall, her breathing uneven. The sound of those steps was enough to drag her mind back into years of chains and pain. She whispered, trembling, "They are here. They will take me back." Daniel moved closer to her, his voice low but steady. "No, they will not." His gaze burned with certainty. "We are not going back." The footsteps quickened. Voices echoed down the tunnels, harsh and metallic. The slavers were speaking in their guttural tongue, ordering search teams. Daniel grabbed Liara's hand, ignoring her flinch, and pulled her toward the landing bay's far side. "Come on," he whispered. "We move now." The tunnel ahead was narrow, its walls cracked and dripping with moisture. Daniel led the way, his light flickering against stone. Liara followed, her heart pounding. Every shadow looked like a hand reaching to drag her back. Every echo felt like a chain clinking behind her. Suddenly, a flash of light lit the passage enemy search beams. A shot sizzled past, burning into the wall beside them. Liara gasped, covering her ears. Daniel pushed her forward, his voice firm. "Run!" They sprinted through the dark, their footsteps splashing through shallow water. The sound of alien boots thundered behind them. The slavers shouted, their voices filled with anger and triumph. They had found their lost slave and the human fool who dared to free her. The tunnel split into two paths. Daniel paused only for a breath, then pushed Liara left, trusting instinct. He guided her into the darker passage. The air grew colder, the walls closer. Liara stumbled, but Daniel steadied her, never letting go of her arm. "Keep going," he urged, his voice cut through her fear like a blade. "Do not stop, no matter what." Her chest burned with exhaustion, but she forced herself forward. The thought of chains on her wrists again gave her strength. She didn't know she had. For the first time in years, she was running not to obey, but to survive. Behind them, the slavers fired again. The tunnel shook as blasts struck the walls, rocks fell around them, dust filled the air. Daniel shielded Leora with his body as debris crashed down. Then he pulled her forward again, coughing through the haze. They burst into a wider chamber. Glowing crystals casting pale light, Daniel scanned quickly, spotting another passage on the far side. But even as he did, 3 slavers dropped from an upper ledge, their weapons raised. Leora screamed, her voice echoing. Her body froze in terror. But Daniel reacted instantly. His weapon roared, beams of light striking the chamber walls. He ducked behind cover, dragging her with him. "Stay down," he ordered. His shots cracked the air, forcing the slavers back. The chamber filled with smoke and light. Leora trembled, her hands covering her ears. She had seen fights before, but never with someone standing for her, never with someone refusing to abandon her. Daniel fired until the enemies scattered, then pulled her again toward the exit. His voice was harsh but steady. "Move, Leora, now." She obeyed, her feet carrying her forward. But inside her chest, something shifted. She was not just running because he pulled her. She was running because she wanted to live. For herself, not just for his promise. The tunnel narrowed again, twisting sharply. The sound of the chase still followed them, though fainter now. Daniel slowed only when they reached a hidden stair carved into the stone. It spiraled upward, ancient and crumbling. Leora hesitated, staring at it, her body shook. "These stairs, they lead to the Overseer's Hall," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "If we go there, they will kill us." Daniel met her gaze, his own unshaken. "If we stay here, they will kill us faster." He squeezed her hand gently. "Trust me, Leora, please." Her glowing eyes searched his, and though fear still lived in her, something stronger was beginning to take root. Belief. She nodded weakly, letting him guide her upward. The climb was endless, the air thick and stale. Each step creaked, dust falling like ash. At the top they emerged into a vast hall. Broken thrones and shattered pillars scattered across the floor. Leora's breath caught. She remembered standing here in chains, forced to bow before masters. The ghosts of her past pressed hard against her mind. But Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "This time, we are not bowing," he said firmly. "This time we walk free." The sound of boots echoed again, closer now. The slavers were entering the hall. Daniel's jaw tightened. He raised his weapon, pulling Leora behind a fallen pillar. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. But something had changed for the first time. Leora was not only running from chains, she was running toward freedom. The choice the ruined hall was quiet again, broken pillars casting long shadows. Daniel and Leora crouched behind the fallen stone, catching their breath. For a moment, only the sound of her trembling breathing filled the air. But Leora was not looking at the slavers anymore. She was staring at her own body, at her arms, her chest. Her glowing skin flickered faintly, almost like it was alive. Her eyes widened with panic. She pulled back suddenly, whispering, "No, it cannot be time yet." Daniel frowned, confused. "What is it?" he asked quickly, his weapon still aimed toward the broken entrance. She shook her head violently, her voice breaking. "You do not understand. They put something inside me, a device. If I try to run too far, if I resist too long, they will trigger it. It will kill me." Her body shivered as she clutched her side. "Sometimes I feel it burn." Daniel's stomach turned cold. He had seen cruel things before, but this was beyond cruelty. This was slavery that lived inside the flesh. He looked at her, his voice low but steady. "And if they trigger it?" Her lips trembled. "I die, and if you stay near me, you die too." Silence fell between them. Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened. The truth was brutal. If she was right, then saving her meant risking everything. Leora lowered her head, her glowing eyes filling with tears. "Leave me," she whispered. Her voice was heavy, final. "It is better if you go." They will not chase you if you abandon me, but if you stay, they will kill us both." Daniel stared at her, his jaw clenched. For a moment, he felt the weight of choice pressing on his chest. His mission, his life, all told him to walk away, that she was lost, that saving her was impossible. But then he saw her, really saw her. Not just a prisoner, not just a victim. He saw the way she still held his glove tightly to her chest, the fragile hope in her glowing eyes, the way she dared to whisper her true name again after years of silence. "No," Daniel said finally, his voice sharp like steel. "I will not leave you." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You must," she said, her voice desperate. "You do not understand. I am broken. I am dangerous. They made me into a weapon without asking me. You cannot fight that." Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady but fierce. "I do not care what they did to you. I do not care what they put inside you. You are not broken, Leora. And you are not a weapon. You are a person, and I will not abandon you." Her tears fell freely, splashing against the dusty stone. She shook her head, whispering, "No one ever speaks like this. No one ever stays." "Then I will be the first." Daniel answered firmly, his eyes locked on hers. "Let them come, let them try. But I will not let them take you. I will not let them kill you. Do you understand? I would rather die fighting beside you than live knowing I left you behind." The hall seemed to go still around them. Even the distant shouts of the slavers faded. Leora looked at him as if seeing something she had never believed existed. Man who chose her, not out of duty, not out of command, but out of choice. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Why?" Daniel's answer came without hesitation. His voice was calm but unshakable. "Because no one deserves chains, not human, not alien, not you." For a long time she said nothing. Her heart pounded in her chest. The device inside her still hummed with silent threat, but for the first time, its power felt smaller compared to his words. At last she nodded slowly, her voice trembling but stronger. "Then, if you will stay, I will not run from myself anymore. I will fight, even if it kills me." Daniel's lips curved in a faint smile. "That is all I ask." The bond between them, fragile until now, grew into something unbreakable. It was no longer just survival. It was choice. His choice to stay, her choice to believe. The sound of boots grew louder again. The slavers were entering the hall, preparing to strike. Daniel stood tall, his weapon ready. Leora rose beside him, no longer hiding. No longer just a prisoner. The device inside her still glowed faintly. A ticking curse. But in her heart, for the first time she felt free. Because she was no longer fighting alone. The final battle. The ruined hall shook as heavy boots marched closer. The slavers were here, their shadows stretching long against the cracked walls. Daniel stood with his weapon ready, his eyes sharp. His breath was calm, steady, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Beside him, Leora trembled. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, the device inside her alive with cruel energy. Each beat felt like a threat, a reminder that her life could be stolen with a single command. But she no longer cowered in the corner. She stood upright, her hand gripping a broken chain she had ripped from the floor. It was not a weapon made for battle, but in her hands, it was a symbol. The slavers entered, their armor gleaming, their weapons humming with power. Their leader, a tall figure with sharp mandibles, pointed at Leora. His voice boomed in the alien tongue. "The slave returns." His eyes narrowed toward Daniel. "And the human dies." Leora flinched, old memories surging. But Daniel stepped forward, his voice strong. "Not today." Blaster fire erupted. The hall lit up with burning light. Daniel moved fast, rolling behind a shattered pillar. His shots rang out, striking 2 slavers down. Smoke filled the air, rubble cracked under the heat. Leora crouched low, her body shaking. The device inside her burned hotter. She gasped, clutching her chest. Her mind screamed to stay down, to surrender, to obey. But Daniel's words echoed through her. "You are not broken. You are not a weapon." With a cry, she rose, swinging the broken chain with all her strength. The metal struck one of the slavers across the helmet. He staggered back, stunned. For the first time, she fought not as prey, but as someone refusing to bow. Daniel covered her, his shots sharp and precise, but the enemies were many. The leader activated a small device on his wrist, and Liara screamed. Her body convulsed as the implant flared alive. Pain surged through her veins like fire. Her knees buckled. "No!" Daniel shouted. His heart clenched at the sight. He fired at the leader, but the alien deflected the blast with a shield. The cruel creature laughed. "She belongs to us, human. You cannot save what is ours." Daniel gritted his teeth, rage burning through him. He sprinted forward, dodging blasts. His weapon was nearly empty, but his will was unbroken. He leapt at the leader, tackling him to the ground. They struggled fiercely, claws against fists, sparks flying as the device on. The alien's wrist flickered. Meanwhile, Liara lay on the ground, the device tearing her apart from within. Her glowing eyes blurred. The chains of her mind whispered, "Give up. You are nothing but a slave." But then she remembered his glove in her hands, his promise never to leave her, the way he called her by her true name. Her trembling fingers closed around the chain again. She pushed herself up, every movement a scream against the pain. The implant roared inside her chest, but she roared louder, swinging the chain with all her strength. The strike hit the leader's wrist, shattering the device that controlled her. Sparks flew as the control unit broke. The pain stopped instantly. Liara gasped, her body collapsing into Daniel's arms. He looked at her, his voice fierce but filled with relief. "You did it. You broke free," the leader snarled, his mandibles wide with rage, but Daniel didn't hesitate. He drove his weapon into the alien's chest and fired the last shot. The slaver fell, the hall trembling with the weight of his defeat. The remaining slavers, seeing their leader fall and their control broken, faltered. Daniel raised his weapon again, ready, but Liara stepped forward, her glowing body shining brighter than ever. Her voice was steady now, strong. "No more chains," she said. Each word carried the power of her survival. The slavers hesitated, then retreated into the shadows, broken without their master. Their footsteps faded into silence. The hall grew still once more. Daniel dropped his weapon, breathing heavily, his body bruised, his face scarred with dust, but his eyes were on her, always on her. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice gentler now. Liara touched her chest, where the device had burned her for years. For the first time there was no pain. Her glowing eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of freedom. "It is gone," she whispered. "The chains inside me." "Gone," Daniel smiled faintly, exhaustion heavy in his face. "Then you are free, truly free." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "Because of you." He shook his head, his voice calm. "No, because of us you fought, you chose. That was your victory, Liara." In that ruined hall, filled with smoke and rubble, the final battle had been more than guns and chains. It was the breaking of her spirit's cage, the death of her master's power. For the first time in her life, she stood not as a slave, not as prey, but as Liara, free and unbroken. A new beginning. The hall was silent now, the echoes of battle fading into memory. The broken pillars stood like witnesses to what had happened. Chains lay shattered on the ground, lifeless and powerless. Liara stood among them, breathing slowly. Her glowing eyes shimmered not with fear, but with something new, something she had almost forgotten. Life. Daniel leaned against a fallen stone, wiping blood from his lip. He was exhausted, his weapon nearly destroyed, but when he looked at Liara, he felt strength return. He had seen her fight her chains, seen her break free. She was no longer just someone he had rescued. She was someone who had chosen freedom with her own hands. Liara looked down at her trembling fingers. The glove he had given her still clutched close to her chest. It had survived everything, like her. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I am not a slave." Daniel's voice answered firmly, "No, you are not. You are Liara, and you are free." Her lips curved, just slightly, but it was real. For years her smile had been stolen. Buried under fear now. It returned like the first light after endless darkness. The ruined hall began to shake. Dust rained from the ceiling. The battle had weakened the structure. Daniel cursed under his breath. "We cannot stay here. It is coming down," he pulled her close, guiding her toward the hidden tunnel they had found earlier. The ground rumbled under their feet. Every step was heavy, but every step was closer to the surface, closer to the stars. They emerged into the landing bay. The ship still waited, scarred and half-buried in rubble. Daniel rushed to the controls, checking its systems. "It is old, but it will fly," he muttered. Leora stepped inside slowly, her glowing eyes wide. The small cabin smelled of dust and metal. For her, this was not just a ship, it was a doorway to a life she had never dreamed possible. She touched the walls gently, whispering, "A cage carried me here once, but this is freedom." Daniel powered up the engines. The ship groaned, but lights flickered to life. The hum of energy filled the air. Leora's eyes widened. The sound was not one of chains or commands. It was the heartbeat of escape. The bay doors cracked open with effort, dust and stone falling as light poured in. For the first time, Leora saw the sky again. Stars glimmered far above, infinite and free. Her tears fell silently. But this time they were not tears of sorrow. The ship lifted. Slowly, pushing through the debris, the ground shook as the outpost collapsed behind them. The ruins of her prison disappeared in clouds of smoke and fire. Leora pressed her hands against the glass, watching as the place she had suffered in for years was swallowed by the earth. Daniel glanced at her, his voice calm but steady. "It is gone now. You never have to look back." She turned to him, her glowing eyes shimmering with emotion. "You gave me back my name. You gave me back myself. How can I ever thank you?" Daniel shook his head, his eyes soft. "You do not owe me thanks. You owe yourself the chance to live. That is enough." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. She sat beside him in the small cabin, close enough that their shoulders touched. For the first time, she was not afraid of closeness, not afraid of hands reaching for her. Instead, she felt safe. The ship broke through the clouds. Stars spread before them, endless and bright. Leora's breath caught. She whispered in awe, "The stars. They look different when you are free." Daniel smiled faintly, his hand steady on the controls. "Then let us see them all, every single one." She turned toward him, her voice quiet but firm. "Together, together," Daniel repeated. His voice carried no hesitation. The ship soared higher, leaving the ruins of chains behind. Ahead stretched only stars, endless journeys, and lives waiting to be lived. Leora leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. Her heart was no longer heavy with fear. She had been broken, but now she was whole. She had been a slave, but now she was free. And sitting beside her was the human who had refused to leave her behind. For the first time, she believed the future belonged to her, not to masters, not to chains, but to her and the man who had seen her not as a slave, not as a weapon, but as Leora. And so their story did not end in the ruins. It began among the stars. A new beginning written in freedom, trust, and hope.